Manson, the leader of a drug and murder cult, ordered the brutal slayings of actress Sharon Tate and the others in her Los Angeles home. One of Manson's executioners at the time included Charles Tex Watson.
After about 2 weeks of taking these drugs and becoming just void of conscience, Manson said, hey, I want you to go out and kill these people, to go up to this place and kill everyone that is there. And he gave us the orders, the directions, even though we knew where we were going. He gave us all the directions of what to do after we got there and what not to do, and told the girls to write something witchy on the walls. And here I was, a naive Texas boy, without a conscience of really right and wrong, thinking that the world was going to come to the end tomorrow. And going on this journey over to this house to kill whoever was in the house, not knowing how many people were there, who they were, what they looked like, whether they were men, women, didn't know anything about this. Going to this house very reluctantly. My conscience hadn't completely dwindled down to nothing at that time, but it was very close to it, because I didn't have enough to say, hey, I'm not going to do this. Individuals, they meant nothing to me. I didn't know the people. I was so high on speed that I understood what I was doing, but...
Charles Tex Watson, the 20-year-old henchman of mass murderer Charles Manson. In 2 nights, Tex single-handedly snuffed out the lives of 7 people in what was the most heinous crime of the 20th century. And now, for the first time on national television, Tex Watson shares what happened the nights of the Tate LaBianca murders. The murders committed in August of 1969 by Charles Manson and his sick band of followers. What you may not realize about the murders is that the victims actually died at the hands of one man, not Charles Manson, but the man since called the executioner, 20-year-old Charles Tex Watson. And now, 21 years after the crimes, Charles Watson shares what really happened.
August 1969. America reeled from 2 nights of murder, 2 nights of helter-skelter. A young 21-year-old man, along with female accomplices, committed all 7 of the Tate LaBianca murders. Charles Watson.
The people at the time of the crimes were just blobs. They weren't individuals. They meant nothing to me. I didn't know the people. I was so high on speed that I understood what I was doing, but it just didn't make any difference anymore.
How does a boy from a good family in Texas end up killing 7 innocent people in Hollywood? Charles made 2 fatal mistakes. He got in with Charles Manson and his family and began taking large amounts of speed and hallucinogens. Did you believe Manson was Jesus Christ?
Yes, we did. We didn't know if he was Jesus Christ or the devil. We were very confused. We were very mixed up. We were living just for today. For tomorrow we died. We didn't know if there was even going to be a tomorrow.
Watson and the other family members saw no future for themselves because Manson told them not to. In fact, he invented an entire theology that combined elements from the Beatles' White Album and the Book of Revelation. He told his followers that the world was about to erupt in chaotic race wars, which he thought was prophesied in the Beatles' song Helter Skelter. The Hollywood murders were supposed to trigger the end, and then Manson and his followers would escape on dune buggies to a bottomless pit in the desert, a pit which, incidentally, in the Book of Revelation, stands for hell.
It didn't start out, hey, I want you to go out and murder these people. It didn't start out that way. It started out, I want you to do this, I want you to build this, I want you to do this, until we became under his control. And he did a lot of role-playing, and putting a chair in a circle and saying, you know, picture a person in that chair and how you would put fear into them if you were in their living room talking to them. So he prepared us for what was to come.
So by the time he issued his orders and his impatience to bring down the chaos, you realized he was serious.
I realized he was serious, yes. And even up to the moment, I mean, even up to a week before he asked us to go out and do the murders, there was another family member that had committed murder, and I could not believe it. I just could not believe what this guy had done. And I thought to myself, I said, hey, wow, how could he have done such a thing, you know? And here 2 weeks later, I was doing the same thing, only 7 times worse than he had done.
One of the reasons Watson could do what had previously disgusted him was the influence of methamphetamine or speed. It's commonly called the drug of violence and is known to dull the conscience. He had been taking it steadily for 2 weeks.
Manson said, hey, I want you to go out and kill these people, to go up to this place and kill everyone that is there. And he gave us the orders, the directions, even though we knew where we were going. He gave us all the directions of what to do after we got there and what not to do, and told the girls to write something witchy on the walls. I didn't think there was going to be any penalty for doing it if I did it. I didn't think that law meant anything anymore. I thought that the world was going to come to the end the next day and that I would never have to pay any consequences for what I did. So there we went, you know.
In 2 nights, Charles Watson helped to kill 7 innocent people in some of the most brutal murders America has ever witnessed. The murderers stabbed their victims dozens of times in some cases, wrote messages on the walls in their blood, and left the unborn son of actress Sharon Tate to die in utero. 21 years later, as unbelievable as it may seem, the same man who committed those murders is a Christian. The police found him, and he has lived out 21 years of his life sentence in the California men's colony. But God also found him, the God Charles knew about in his youth in Copeville, Texas. He now has a measure of peace, even though he also has the memory of what he did.
I hate what I've done. I hate having to be the person that have committed a crime that's so hideous. I hate that.
Charles's family never gave up on him and continued to write letters encouraging him to give his life to God. He did that in a chapel service in 1975, and since then has come to realize the gravity of what he did.
When I came to Christ, it was the first time that I really felt for the people that I had murdered. I had read the book Helter Skelter, and I read about some of the parents all getting in bed together and just crying themselves to sleep. And it began to hit me what I had done, but very lightly.
A whole new stage of understanding came when a young Christian woman named Susan began to correspond with him and came to visit one day.
Then she said, my mother was Rosemary LaBianca. And I just, you know, sort of, I just really didn't know how to take that. I said, you're kidding. And she said, no, I'm not kidding. And as I sat there, I just thought to myself, you know, and said, hey, I killed her mother and father, you know. And that was really hard to take. And she, you know, made me feel good. And I wasn't as emotional as I am now because I just, you know, it was just all so new. And it was something like I wanted to protect it. And I didn't want anyone to, you know, be able to hurt it or to step on it or to harm what had taken place. I think what Susan, the experience with Susan has done is to really teach me and show me and allow me to experience the grace and the love of God. I understood before she came to forgive me that I was loved by God, and I understood the love of God, and I loved God. But after she came and forgave me, I took on a whole new love for God because I experienced in even a more personal way God's love working through another.
Exceptional life of this woman who conquered the unimaginable. She forgave and even befriended the man who murdered her mother and her stepfather. Please welcome to the 700 Club from Carpinteria, California, Susan LaVerge. Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you. Where were you on that night when that terrible crime took place?
When the crime took place, I was at home in my apartment in the Silver Lake area.
Now, you had spent time with your mum and your stepfather earlier on that day, hadn't you? The day before?
Yes, we had gone to a lake in the Mojave Desert and gone to pick up a speedboat that we'd left with some friends. And we came back together very late that night, and they dropped me off, and then they went on home to their house.
How did you hear of what happened? Who discovered?
Well, the next day, my brother had stayed at the lake, and he came back, and he went to the house, and he saw that the boat that is usually left somewhere else was still at the bottom of the driveway. And he went up the driveway, and he didn't think that things were normal. He just felt that something was abnormal. And so he walked about 5 blocks to call me on the telephone and to ask me to come and get him and to go to the home together. So together, he and I and a friend went and discovered my parents dead.
Is there any way to describe how you react to such a sickening scene